So I've done 2 videos on trauma bonds, and when I had my other YouTube channel, someone had asked me to do a video on how to heal trauma bonds, and so here it is. And for those who haven't seen these videos, they're on my page, but I'll make it easier for you, and I'll place the links down below in the description. Maybe I'll even put them up as end screens at the end. In these videos, I talked about trauma bonding and what it does to our bodies. And today we'll look at ways out of these bonds so that we can breathe again and have a life that isn't filled with grief. Now, we know that trauma bonds are attachments to dysfunctional relationships where we have intermittent reinforcement. We also know that without our partners, somehow we don't feel safe in the world. So a little while back, I fell upon this book written by an author named Patrick Carnes called The Betrayal Bond. In his book, he has a list of signs that we can see when someone is trauma bonded. And although we all know what trauma bonds look like, sometimes just looking at these signs displayed right in front of us, it can register clearer. So here's the list from Mr. Carnes. You know you're trauma bonded when you continue to be fixated on people who hurt you and who are no longer in your life. You know that you're trauma bonded when you crave contact with someone who has hurt you and who you know will cause you more pain. When you continue to revolve around people who you know are taking advantage of you and are exploiting you, and or you are trauma bonded. You know you are trauma bonded when you are committed to remaining loyal to someone who has betrayed you, even though their actions indicate that things will never change. When you are desperate to be understood, validated, or needed by those who have indicated that they don't care about you, you are trauma bonded. You know you are trauma bonded when you go to great lengths to continue to help, caretake, or consider people who have been destructive to you. The impact that abuse has on a victim, it creates extremely strong impacts on their biology. And I do talk about that in one of my videos that I'll have linked down below on trauma bonding. The stronger or more intense the reactions are emotionally to these abusers, the more changed or altered that we become inside. Every time that we're put through some type of trauma, be it name called, yelled at, etc., something clicks inside of our nervous system, and as it does, the brain stops for a split second and it snaps a picture of that experience. And even though that moment was just a moment in passing, it continues to live within us because it has been imprinted in the brain. And that's what we call long-term memory. The image is branded in the brain. And what happens every time our system gets shocked this way, all these stress chemicals get triggered again and again. And so what we do in order to not have to go through this really uncomfortable feeling is we avoid, like telling ourselves that it isn't so bad or that we can handle it, we're strong. But what ends up happening when we deny and avoid is that we keep reliving and revisiting the memory or the event over and over again. Now we're on this hamster wheel and we're stuck in the same pattern, thinking the same thoughts and experiencing the same feeling. And that's how conditioning occurs. Same thought, same feeling, same stimulus, same response. Now, along with the memory branded in the brain, the feeling, the emotion is now in the body. It's a whole chemical thing. The mind thinks a stressful thought and sends out chemicals to the body. So now the brain and the body are working together habitually and unconsciously, and the person's state of being is attached to the past. Every time that you think that same thought and feel that same emotion, you are discharging the same circuits into the network, in turn recreating the same outcome time and time again. That memory or that recording, basically that programming, determines how we see the world. and who we are in it as a result. When you focus on the person who has or is causing you pain, what you're doing is you're not only recreating outcomes, but you are giving permission to that person to control your very being, whether you want to admit that or not. So as Dr. Joe Dispenza says, a victim consciousness is when we allow something in our environment to control the way we think and feel. Think about that one. So do we really want to continue being victims here? I mean, think about it. All that energy that you're using up, and you are using up mass amounts of energy in survival mode, and all that energy, it could be put to good use elsewhere, right? Just like Wayne Dyer always said, don't die with your music still in you. Don't waste your time anymore. Question is if I'm conditioned with this long-term memory, how can I even get out of this situation now? Well, ever hear of rebranding? Yes, you have been conditioned, but you can recondition the mind. You can through hypnosis, for example. Hypnosis allows the new wanted beliefs to sink into the subconscious mind. And of course, the trick is repetition here. You don't just do one hypnosis session and voila, you're programmed. Other than that, I'd be rich. I mean, the abuse that you endured wasn't just done to you once. It was repeated over and over again until over time, the subconscious mind accepted it. The programming stuck. And you can do self-hypnosis. There are lots on YouTube, and I have a couple on my channel also. I'll leave those links down below in the description as well. Should you choose to look on YouTube for sessions, look for self-hypnosis sessions that are designed to increase your confidence, that help you believe in self again, and a person who you can connect with when you're listening to the hypnosis. That's very important. The next suggestion is focus. Practice focus. When you were being conditioned, you focused all of your thoughts around what people were doing and saying. You focused all your thoughts on what a loser you thought you were, for example, or on fear thoughts about being unloved or not being able to make it on your own. So now what we want to do is we want to consciously and intentfully focus on now, this moment, and our awareness. We become responsible for the way we think, and every time a familiar thought creeps in, a remembering of what this person did or said, for example, we bring ourselves back to the moment of now. We're really taking responsibility at 1,000% for us now. So let me try to explain this and how it works. In the book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, Dr. Joe Dispenza explains how your brain contains around 100 billion neurons that store information and communicate with each other. He states that whenever you learn something new, your neurons communicate, making a new synaptic connection in your neocortex. And that's what learning is. So if learning makes new connections, then remembering is maintaining and sustaining those new connections. The more that you think the same thoughts and feel that same emotion, the more bonded you become, the stronger the connection. He states that thoughts that fire together, wire together. In other words, those connections, they create a network. Now, let's say that you've studied something and you passed your exams with flying colors, but 5 years go by where you never did anything regarding your studies. You went a different route. So the brain won't recall the learnings. And that's because these neurons, these cells, are no longer firing together. Hence, they are no longer wired. They've come undone. They're no longer connected. Out of sight, out of mind. See how that works? So every time that you find yourself going through these repetitive thoughts on what the narcissist did or said, or how your caregivers growing up treated you badly, drop the thought. Drop it intentionally and practice this over and over and over again. You want to turn off that thought repeatedly over and over again, because as you do this, the bond will become unglued. And it won't be easy at first. You'll have to be willing to keep going, to keep pushing forward, because at first the brain is going to insist on bringing up some thought that can create the same chemicals that the body is used to getting. It's addicted. And I explain all of that in the trauma bond videos. But for now, there are ways to go about doing this. Here are some examples, and you want to use them all at different times. So one thing you can do is place your hand on your heart center so that you can be reminded to be here now, to reconnect to self. Try it now. Place your hand on your heart and lower your eyes for a moment and feel that space. And you might say something to yourself like, I am here. I am safe. I am okay. Do that often. Another really important one is to turn your attention towards looking for beauty and appreciation. And I'm not talking about makeup here. I'm referring to the teachings of the Celestine prophecies. When we are in a state of appreciation and gratitude, such as appreciating trees or nature of some sort, or a room in your house that you love, you enter a state of love, which is the opposite of what you feel when you're living these habitual thoughts that bring you to its opposite, like hatred and resentment and fear. So what's happening is you're beginning to create new habits, and you're actually beginning to create new opportunities for a new life. Another one is to change your environment or state when you find yourself indulging in incessant thoughts. So take yourself for a walk. You want to be responsible for yourself. Journal. Write down all of the things that you're grateful for. Commit to this. Sometimes you might want to draw in an image of a positive future, like meeting someone new in your life or a new vehicle, anything that can change not only the thoughts, but the emotions. Remember, the body has become addicted also. And besides, the more that you focus on a preferred future, the more you draw it to you, literally, for those who are not familiar with manifestation. Other times, you'll be having moments where the thoughts just keep insisting on re-entering the mind no matter what you do. And in those moments, I want you to scold the mind. Seriously. You tell the mind to be quiet because you are now the boss. And I'm referring to your conscious mind here, and that they are no longer in charge, the subconscious mind. It sounds funny, but you're intending when you do this, and intention has power of its own. What you're doing is you're sort of like reparenting. Read Wayne Dyer's book, The Power of Intention. So you want to keep lowering the volume, and this will take patience. You'll have to keep doing this for a while. Remember, you are in training. How badly do you want change? Keep at it. Keep going. You'll see the results. This is where willpower has its place. And as you do this little by little, you begin detaching from the bond. Keep returning to the now, returning to the self, and you'll notice how you begin feeling safe again. Every time that you're thinking thoughts of what this narcissist did, you're back in the past. So breathe, touch your center, connect, and say, I am here. One win after another, and over time, you'll have reconditioned the self and come unglued from the bond. Every time you disengage from the thought, you cut more layers of these energetic ties. Exchange those past thoughts with future thoughts and how you want your life to be. And that's what we call the manifestation. Replace low vibrational thoughts with high vibrational ones and enter a new world. It takes discipline, but you can do this. You start with asking yourself questions like, what would it be like to feel freedom? Ask and picture it and feel the feeling of it. What would my day look like if I lived the life that I want? How would I wake up each morning? What would my morning rituals look like? How would I act towards another? What would time spending with friends look like? Write these questions and other questions down for a while and answer them. And by doing this, you are attracting better things in your life. If you continue doing it, it will actually manifest. If you do it like a couple of times a day. We're powerful creators. And then another way that we want to get a grip of our incessant thoughts and bonds is through learning cognitive skills. Sometimes our thoughts can be quite harmful, so we want to learn the art of looking at other possibilities in certain situations. Again, these are habits, right? This is the programming, and we want to let go of these habitual thoughts, or rather habitual reactions. We often tend to jump to conclusions that are often unfounded. For example, you send a text to a friend who doesn't respond immediately. Matter of fact, the text that you sent in the morning has gone unresponded come nighttime. Now, when you didn't get a response within the first hour, your mind went to, my friend doesn't really care about me, and starts to escalate deeper down the rabbit hole from there with thoughts like, no one cares. No one is ever there for me, and so on and so forth. And that's the programming. And so you're doing self-damage here. So let's turn away from the judgment for a moment and try using the skill of looking at other possibilities. Entertain other possibilities. So your friend saw the message, but was dead in the middle of something, and the day took on a life of its own with more setbacks. And although they had full intention on getting back to you, it completely slipped their mind. Or the friend had no clue that their phone battery had died, or that they had left their phone in their purse or something, never realizing that you had texted. Perhaps the friend is going through something and really can't respond. Example, a fight with a partner or a child in the hospital. Or maybe the friend has a house full of company, maybe family from afar, and is busy entertaining. Maybe the friend is ill. Then we have stress generation. Stress generation is a term that describes the contribution of the depressive person to the occurrence of stressful life events. And that's from Hum in 1991. In other words, action theory, which is the distinction between things that happen to a person and things one does or makes happen. So basically, we often are the reason for our own stressful events. And this occurs both by action or non-action. And it's our behaviors, and also by the thoughts that you allow to entertain. And an example of action could be overeating, drinking, and other unhealthy things. Inaction could be things like not doing the self-hypnosis, or in this case, continuing to indulge in angry thoughts rather than unwiring these thoughts. So be aware of how many times that you've made not so good decisions in the span of just one day. And you'll find it's a lot, and you're not alone in this. We're human. Little decisions over time can add up to serious consequences, both good or bad. Action or lack of always results in an outcome. Always. It's the law of cause and effect. You can't get around it. So find out what it is that you want and go get it. People want money. And so every day they get out of bed and they go to work. And that's an everyday decision. And at the end of the week, in turn, they receive the very thing that they wanted, which was a paycheck. So too goes your everyday decisions. And one desire that you have presently is to come unglued from this trauma bond. So make the decision every day. Make the decision every day to catch your thoughts and change them. Make the decision every day to check in on your emotions. Make the decision every day to connect with self. And these decisions will add up, and these decisions will save your life. And so as I come to an end of this video, I also want to mention really quickly other ways that you can unwire when you find yourself having incessant thoughts is through yoga nidra. Yoga nidra, or yogic sleep in modern usage, is a state of consciousness between waking and sleeping, typically induced by a guided meditation. It's an excellent way to disconnect from thoughts that bond us. It's actually applied by the U.S. Army to assist soldiers to recover from post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder in which most of us have suffered from in the hands of narcissists. During Yoga Nidra, you will enter a calming state for the mind and body through guided meditation. The practice creates physical and mental activities that change brain waves to release emotional tension, slow down the nervous system, and allow muscles to relax. And the benefits of this practice are many. You have enhanced neuroplasticity, improved heart rate variability, improved thought patterns, and reduced stress. So your cortisol levels go way down. Enhanced cognitive performance, improved self-esteem and confidence, better night's sleep, and refined physical health. Improved waking mindfulness. It lowers blood pressure and it balances the nervous system. It does lots. So I highly recommend it. And you can find all types of Yoga Nidra sessions free on YouTube. Pick one that you can relate to, meaning the voice. Some people do better with a soft spoken voice, and others do better listening to a voice that's more commanding. And these aren't the only ways, of course, to break trauma bonds. There's going no contact. There's understanding the self. There's studying up on narcissism, which you are, of course, and coming to radical acceptance of who they are and how they more than likely will not change. There's inner child work. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, and the list goes on. There's finding new things to do and meeting new people, like joining yoga classes or meditation classes, woodwork, art, or whatever inspires and distracts you from the thoughts that keep you bonded chemically. So these are all ways to start the detachment and embark on your healing journey. And I will close with that. So let me know in the comments below what you've decided to try and how that's working out for you. And hopefully that can encourage others to jump in on the bandwagon. So that is all for today, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.